Welcome to Transformative Voices, the only podcast where women of color speak their truth to save the world. I'm your host, Effortlessly Erika, and this is your sanctuary for unfiltered, raw wisdom. If you're feeling unmotivated, uninspired, or straight up lost, this is the perfect place for you to be. Tune in. Welcome back to another episode of Transformative Voices. Today, I have someone who really is really dear to my heart. I've known this woman since I was a child. We've literally grown up with each other. We've been through some of the worst and craziest things that you could think of. And today, she is now a licensed cosmetologist, a mother, a wife, and an advocate for women's empowerment. I'm so excited for y'all to meet my girl, Evonni.
Hello.
Evonni, tell them a little bit about yourself.
I feel like you ran it down pretty good. Like she said, I'm a hairstylist, a mother, a wife, just trying to navigate, getting older, doing some reflecting, and yeah, I'm here with you.
Girl, you one of the only one of us that have made it down the aisle now, so I'm super proud about that. You're not just a hairstylist, you're a licensed cosmetologist. That's a big deal.
Yes.
Because you've been doing hair in the kitchen since we was kids, and you could have kept doing that, you know?
Right.
But you're somebody who really always invests your time and your money into your education and into your craft, and that makes me just so inspired. Like, I always feel like, damn, like this is somebody who we could be doing other shit. You could be having a time, you could be partying, you could be wasting your money, but you always reinvesting. So that's something that I really look to you for to really get motivation from. So I just wanted to let you know that early in the episode.
Thank you.
So like I said earlier, like I've known Evonni since we was children. Like when I was going through some of the toughest times in my life, I was hanging out with her. I was sleeping on her couch. Her mom was giving me advice. She was doing my hair. And she really helped me learn how to navigate the streets. I was still just a shelter girl from Postpartum, and I had to figure this shit out. And you held it down for me.
Thank you.
Like, you put me onto so much game, but when I think back, I'm like, how did you even know that stuff? You know? Ooh. You were about, 13 years old when you had your first child?
I got pregnant at 13, yep.
So what was life like for you before you had Cam?
All right, so starting off very young. I'm from Pennsauken as well. I was living on Frosthofer with my mom and dad, my two brothers. One day, my mom just picked up in the middle of the night while my dad was at work and left. Packed up the house and left. We moved to Pittsburgh. So I did the first and some of the second grade out there. My dad took my mom to court and they got joint custody. Okay. So I was back and forth from Pittsburgh to Pennsauken. Okay. My mom ended up getting an injury on her leg and couldn't come get me, and my dad registered me for school. Okay. So that's how I started in Pennsauken. Around that time, my dad, he was a single dad. He worked, always worked 3 jobs at a time. So he couldn't really be with me how he should. Very spoiled. Got whatever I wanted to, but I just didn't have that social experience. I didn't hang out with kids, just kind of in the house watching TV. He kept a lot of women around, different women, young women, babysitters, and just seeing what they were going through. You know, he'd be at work, bringing men. So I just kind of grew up fast just in the environment that I was in. Fast forward to about 11, I started hanging downtown, started selling drugs.
Did you meet somebody that was already hanging down there?
So my god sister moved from Crustberry to downtown. Okay. And she got in the streets, and she's a little older than me. She got into the streets, and just me being with her, it's like, oh, I want to do it too. Right. Really didn't need to. Like, I'm my dad's only child. Like I said, I was spoiled, but it was something to do. It was edgy. I was young, so I was like, why not?
11 years old, selling drugs.
Yeah.
And what did that look like for you next?
It kind of went on until I got pregnant, just different. I went from downtown to out East Camden, and now that I'm older, it's like, damn, I could have really died. Like, when they was having them wars and shit downtown.
Yes, they used to really be beefing.
I was right in the middle of all that. Wow. So it's like crazy at the time. It's like, oh, you know what I mean? So I was just off the hook. My dad couldn't handle me. Like I said, my mom, she got hurt with that. That led into drug addiction for her. So, like, you know, it just was navigating through doing whatever I want to. I had a lot of freedom, did whatever I wanted to do, went where I went. During that time, I met my son's dad and got pregnant. I think I slept with him.
Was he a kid too?
No, he was.
Right, he was a grown up.
He was my mom's age.
Yeah.
And at the time, I would, you know, he didn't force me to have sex, but it's like, like, you know, I was a child. Me and his daughter are the same age, so my son's sister were like months apart. So it just, that dynamic of it is like, wow, now that I'm older and explaining to my son why his dad was born in the 70s and I was born in the 90s. Like, you know, so I feel like my son saved my life though. In a lot of ways, I feel like I was already grown, but it like slowed me down. Like, you know what I mean? You got somebody looking up to you, and do you want him to live the life that you're living or the life that his dad is living? Right.
One thing about you always was very like cautionary. You know, like you was always like the voice of reason. And you was the youngest of all of us, mind you, but you would come in and be like, now what the fuck is going to happen if we do this? Because I ain't trying to go to jail. I don't want this nigga trying to be there. Like, you always came in where me and our other friend was kind of like, oh, what's the worst that can happen? So I could see like Cam being that difference, because I didn't have no children and she kind of had a disconnect from the child that she had. So I could see Cam making a huge difference in your life. But even after having him, you were still doing, you know, some things that people our age was not doing. Right. One of the first things that like always come to my mind when I think about you is like, I didn't have nowhere to live. I didn't have no money, no clothes, no nothing. And you was like, yeah, but you out here going with these niggas. Like, you hanging out with these niggas. Like, these niggas is picking you up. These niggas around the corner want you. Like, when you gonna start asking for some money? You were a little mean about it, because you was like, what? Like, why ain't you already thinking this? But you was also really empowering, because you was like, you look good. You got a nice body. Like, you ain't got no kids. You need to get on your shit. Get with one of these guys that got something going for themselves and put yourself on. You always was coming at me like that. But where did you get that understanding from? Like, that you could be asking or charging for money?
My mom, and just hearing stories about my grandmother. She had 7 kids, so it always was, what can you do for me and my kids? And she put a lot of that on my mom. Like, oh, men need to be doing this. If you're gonna be, you need to get a couple dollars. You need to, you know what I mean? You shouldn't, what she say, never never get up with a wet ass.
Yeah, that's exactly what y'all used to tell me. And I could relate, because like, I want to be clear, you weren't the person who like told me about this exchange. This is the dynamic I grew up in too. My mom never really had no job. Right. She only had niggas. Right. So I knew that guys was supposed to be around to take care of you, to buy you shit, but I hadn't yet built the courage up myself. If you was giving me something, like, I was just happy to be going with you, getting fed. You know, we was going to the mall, you was buying me something, I was good with that. But you were the person that was like, no, you have the advantage here. Yes. He wants something from you. Ask, and if they say no, don't go. And that really like shaped a different level of confidence for me, and I carried that shit all the way till a couple years ago, you know what I mean? And it just got higher and higher, and I started to share the same thing with people. Like, if you ain't got nothing else and you already doing this, then you need to know that you worthy here and you can ask for something. That was always powerful to me, and I feel like you still are that same way, but with way more positive tactics, you know, like way more positive things. And now, like, you have a teenage son, you have daughters. Is this something like, do you talk about your past with your kids? Is this something that come up at all?
With my son, it's starting to come up. Some stuff I didn't tell him, but like, you know, he knows I had him young, and just going through that dynamic of it, like, you know, trying to navigate with a child is something that you don't want to do. Once I got pregnant with him, my dad wanted me to get an abortion. He like, I'll pay for the abortion. And the reason why I didn't go, because my mom said, you know, it's your body, you do what you want, but I'm not going to come with you to the appointment. And I was scared. I was like, oh no, like, I'm going to have to do it by myself. So I was like, well, maybe, you know, she had my older brother young, and my grandmother was, so this is generations of teen motherhood.
Right.
So I'm like, well, maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. And like I said, I'm glad I did make that decision. But once I had him, I pretty much was cut off from my dad. I'm not, you know.
Because when I got with you was living with your mom.
Right.
And your dad might stop by here and there, drop a couple dollars off and things like that. But I didn't even know that you used to live with him when you was a kid and stuff.
Yeah, that was I lived with my dad up until I got pregnant. And then after I had my son, I think I did two. He was living in Pemberton. I did like a year and a half down there with him. So just imagine coming to a middle school, the new girl, and you 7 months pregnant, right? It's letters going out to parents. Now it's diapers because this is like something a shock. So abstract. But in Camden,
it's normal. Yeah.
So just dealing with that, he was just real like
he was distraught. He was going through a lot with that too. So now you living with your mom,
right?
We hanging out.
We outside.
You smart, because I'm telling you, you was the only one out of the three that went and got a motherfucking job. You was the youngest one. A year and 2 years ago, we could have went and got ourselves a job. So I must have already been about 16 years old when I'm at your house homeless. Our friend, I think she was a little bit older than us, so she might have been on the cusp of 17. But the day you could get your working papers, you went and got your working papers. And I think you went 2 blocks up the street and got a job.
Yes.
And you went to work every day that you could.
Yes.
Was your mom a hard worker, or did you did say your dad was a hard worker?
I got that from my dad and my dad's side of the family. My grandfather, he just recently passed too. Just always like properties, cars, stuff like that. My grandfather had a vacation home in North Carolina we used to go to every summer. So seeing that aspect of it, it's like, okay, because when I was selling drugs, I always had ambitions that I wanted to be rich, right? So my idols was like Giselle DeBlanco, and it was a girl from North Camden, a Spanish girl that was like a big time hustler. Yeah. So you know,
I love her. Shout out to her.
running it, you know what I mean? Running in circles with her. So that's what I aspired to be. Yeah. But once I had my son, it's like it's a lot of risk that comes with it, and who gonna take care of this child? You know what I mean? My dad maybe financially, and then my mom at the time still was dealing with drug addiction. Something happened.
She was doing the best that she could too, because she was trying to raise all of us. She would watch camp sometimes when we were sitting on out, but she was gonna blow that phone and make you come get your baby. She definitely held you accountable to being a mom. You wasn't like a sister to your son. You was his full blown mom. You was there day in and day out. It was diapers, it was potty training, it was everything, because his dad wasn't even around.
No.
When you start working, you still was dibbling and dabbling outside of that. So I want to know, mind you making your way to school, because we in the youth build program. I done already got my diploma. I'm still going to school with y'all every day. Just because you so young, you ain't got nothing else to do. You going to school, I'm going with you. You get your diploma, you still working. At what point did you be like, okay, I'm really taking this path? Like, this is what's for me, for real. I got to continue to find a better job, because you didn't stop at the chicken joint. Every time you found a better job, you got a better job. You recently went back to school, became a cosmetologist. What did that look like for you? When did you really decide?
I would say the chicken joint, and then after that, it was like, all right, I'm gonna get another job. I'm gonna get a job at Walmart. I went to school for medical assisting, and the school closed down right before it was time for me to graduate. At this time, now I'm pregnant with my second child. Wow. So my dad gave me a car. I ain't had my license yet, but he gave me the car. I had my permit. And just having these kids young, it's like, you know what I mean? My second relationship.
I forgot you had got pregnant. And we were still kids. Like, the second baby didn't even come way later, but we were still children. How old was you when you had her?
I was 18.
Right.
So now I have a 4-year-old and a newborn. Same kind of deal. Like, ain't shit, nigga. Like, you know what I mean? I'm living with his family at this point. And just wanting more. I just was tired. I was so tired. That was really a dark moment in my life, but it woke me up. You know, it woke me up like, all right, it's time. Right. Somebody said something like, well, maybe you should get a group home job. So now I'm like, all right, I'm going to bankrupt. So, and I felt like that job, it grew me up. Now I was able to get my own apartment. I could start, like, you know, taking trips and just being independent and able to support my children, whether the fathers was there or not.
Right.
So that was the first, like, all right. But after doing that, I was getting burnt out. I was getting tired. I'm like, I'm making these people all this money. I'm working, you know what I mean? I'm getting 120 hours in 2 weeks. And I don't know. I just felt like I didn't have purpose. So I start, asking God to, like, give me a purpose. Fast forward, I met my husband. I feel like we both was in a transitioning stage. He was, like, transitioning out the streets, and I was kind of just figuring out what I want to do with my life. I know I wanted better, and it kind of just went from there. I started selling hair. I got into selling hair because I just felt like, we was wearing Remy and shit, and then after Remy, it was bundles, and I'm like, all right, Kendra Boutique got the best bundles, but I want to bring some good hair to the hood.
Right.
Started doing that, and was like on and off with it, not knowing how to manage money, getting the money, blowing the money, all that type of stuff. And I feel like when the pandemic came, I was like, all right, it's time to turn up.
Yeah. I think that was like a life-changing time for everybody. And for me, it changed for the worse, but then it ended up being a lesson,
right.
You know what I mean? So during the pandemic, I was pregnant with my son, and I ended up having him like towards the end of the shutdown. He was born in July. And when I was pregnant with him, I was suffering from postpartum psychosis already. And I found out this term because I had told my doctor. I told my doctor, I'm feeling suicidal. I don't want to live. I don't want to have this baby. And I just be scared when I'll be home by myself. And she literally was like, it sounds like you're experiencing postpartum psychosis. Everything's going to be okay. Just go home. Just relax. You have nothing to worry about. It'll go away over time. That's the way that she shaped the conversation for me.
Right.
There was no pamphlet. There was no link. There was no nothing. And it's not until like recent times where I'm hearing more people talk about how Black women get treated differently at doctors that I'm like, oh, they failed me.
Right.
Like, I was crying out for help, literally, and they failed me. And I had family members and friends who knew what I was going through and did their best. But like we talked about offset, you don't know what this shit is, so you don't even know what to do.
Right.
And the people who knew what it was and what to do didn't help me.
Right.
They feel very guilty. They feel very bad, but I don't put anything on them at all because they did do their best. I ended up making a bad phone call one night. I had called my son's dad, and on that particular day, I want to say we was back together. Like you in a rocky relationship, 3 and 4 days straight, y'all not together. He convincing you he ain't come home. It's COVID. I ran into some people. I didn't want to come around you. All this, So in my mind, we was going through some things, but as we had a very toxic relationship. We wanted to get married. We had went to City Hall, and my witness didn't have her driver's license with her. And I swear to God, that day I told myself, I need to let it go from here, and I didn't. I didn't. A few months later, I ended up pregnant, and then we ended up at this phone call. So I called my partner one night. At least I think we together. You know what I mean? I don't fucking know. The story gets told different ways these days. And a familiar voice picked up the phone. My hairdresser pick up his phone, and they arguing back and forth. And he like, don't be picking up my fucking phone. And she like, no, tell her where you at. She can come and get you. And it was like a movie. Like my mind was just like zooming. Like, what the fuck is going on? You hear about rumors? I had a fake page writing me all the time, telling me this. I would bring it to him. He would tell me they must be one of my friends hating on me. And now I'm looking at all my friends feeling like they really hating on me, like it's a problem. For whatever reason, I ended up getting in my car. I ended up at that person's house. I ended up arguing with them, almost getting into a fight. But because me and him already had such an abusive relationship, I got back in my car when he told me to. And when I got in my car, I'm being yelled at, I'm being screamed at, I'm being called names, and really sad things happen. Things that, I never thought I would even be capable of. People got really, really hurt, and I'm still sad and regretful to this day. But I was at my worst, and the people who I thought would have been close to me, my partner, my hairdresser, he seemed like they was plotting against me this whole time. He would be telling me stuff You know, like, yeah, because you was with this guy and you was with this, and I couldn't figure out what was happening. And now, in this one moment, I realized, like, damn, she was telling him everything I was telling her in her chair. And so I was really excited to talk to you because I feel like, one, you really know me, you know, so you know, like, that I never been a violent person, you know, like, you know, I always wanted to be liked. I always wanted friends. And you was one of them people who would tell me, like, people gonna hate on you, people gonna be jealous of you. You always was drilling that into me early on, but I ain't never fucking believe it. And now I'm still just trying to learn from that experience. And I feel like I really found my purpose from it. Like, I really know that, like, I want to share my story with people and educate people on a different type of traumas that we experienced and how we could get through it. Right. And so I was so excited to talk to you today because I felt like for the first time I'll be able to talk to somebody who know me. Right. You know? And I would be finally able to get it off my chest, like, for real. And I really also wanted to ask you, you know, like, what was your thoughts on the whole situation as a hairdresser, as somebody who knows me, as a woman that's experienced postpartum, you know, like, when all this was happening and you was hearing all this, or even now, like, what was you thinking?
I think that I'm like, well, what happened when I first heard it? I'm like, she didn't just, that wasn't just the action. There's a story behind that. Like I told you, I was in a similar situation, so I get it. I just wanted to know what happened. There was something, and then also you got to give yourself grace. That's probably like one of your first adult relationship. It had to be like, you know, more to the story, which I knew it was. I didn't want to. We wasn't close, but it was always love. You know, from a distance, always mutual. So I didn't want to be like, oh well, what happened? You know, because I'm sure you was getting a lot of that. But also, you got to just give yourself grace. You know what I mean? Like I said, you know, this was your first. You had a baby. Like, I've been dealing with baby dads and all that bullshit. You know what I mean? So I could see how hurt you could be, because like I said, I've been there. I feel like this is what God had in store for you to take you to the next level. You got to just look at it like that. Like, would you be here if that situation didn't happen?
And it's crazy that you said that because, like, me and my friends, me and my family, even me and my therapist, I done been in an inpatient program, outpatient program. I done hired my own therapist. Like, I was in such a poor mental state that something was bound to happen.
Yes.
And I am very apologetic that is what happened. But I also know, like, we're not in control.
No.
You know, it's hard to admit that when you did something wrong or when something happened to you, but there's a divine order happening in the world. You know, everybody's quick to say, oh, everything happens for a reason when it's convenient. Right. You know, but like right now, like, I'm facing jail time, you know, like, and that's not something I want to do. Right. But you do have to be accountable for your actions. And there is repercussions for doing and making mistakes, even if it was just a mistake. Right. But I am trying to convince myself, continuously working on convincing myself that if that is my fate, that just is something that was supposed to happen, you know? Yes. And it hurts my feelings because my mom spent a lot of time in jail when I was a kid. And just thinking about spending one day away from my son because of jail just puts me somewhere different. My son goes with his dad all the time, weekends, days at a time. He might stay with a family member. I don't feel anything. Right. But knowing that I'm going to be away from you and I can't do anything about it, it's really hurting my feelings. And I'm realizing that, like, I ended up doing one of the things that I never wanted to do as a parent, you know? And I look back and I think, like, I didn't really have an example of a good mother, you know? And I'm still trying to figure out how to be a good mother. So I want to know from you, like, what do you think it takes to be a good mom?
Just showing up, you know, showing up for that kid and allowing, there's no handbook, like you said, you know what I mean? We watched our parents, the mistakes they made, and sometimes you try so hard not to make them same mistakes, you end up slipping right into, you know what I mean, exactly what you don't want to be. But showing up.
Yeah.
Like, he's always gonna remember who was there, who bought my clothes, who played with me, who did my hair, who washed my hair, stuff like that.
It's crazy that you say that, because I'm having an issue right now with that. You know, like, I don't want my son's hair. I never knew how to braid no hair, no nothing. I didn't had to learn how to braid hair because his dad wanted him to have hair.
Right.
But I'm the one that's responsible for doing his hair when you dating my hairdresser. I don't have somebody to do my hair because you dating her, but y'all not doing his hair and you the one that want it.
Right.
So I feel like you said before, you have a lot of experience in dealing with co-parents. What advice do you have for me in this type of situation where it's like, I'm trying to work with somebody who is never working with me? What am I supposed to do? Because I also don't want to make the situation worse.
Right.
You know?
I feel like just keep communicating. If that person is making things harder, that's because he didn't let go of what you guys had, or how to, whatever the situation, I don't know, but there's something that he's holding on to. But just keep the communication open. Don't be problematic. Like, you know what I mean? We can have a conversation. You're not going to disrespect me, but you know what I mean? We could talk, because a lot of people, especially in Black communities, you think, oh, that's my baby dad. We got to be toxic. We got to argue. We got to fight. But that's not necessarily the case. The goal is to take care of this child. If you love this child and I love this child, why can't we come together to see that this child has the best life? So just keeping the communication open, honest. And I feel like it would get to a point, you know what I mean? It would get to a point, even like with this situation, you guys still share a child. And it's going to get to a point where y'all going to have to sit down, have a conversation, and be willing to move forward.
I feel like every time I think that, like, we have moved forward and we are building a friendship, just like a lot of anger comes out towards me again, you know, and for different reasons. Like, maybe I wasn't the best partner myself, you know, the relationship was toxic as a whole. So I was cheating, I was hitting on you, I was doing shit too. Absolutely. So I feel like a lot of anger is just always coming up towards me. And for a long time, we was cool, you know, like, we could talk. Sometimes we'd be on the phone for hours, you know. It was even a point where I was thinking, like, what is about to happen here? But it all switched not too long ago, you know, and now I'm feeling like trying to respond to how somebody is constantly going through waves, and I really don't know how to navigate that.
Also, you got to think with your situation, who's in his ear? You know what I mean? Because he could be battling against that. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, how could you want to have a conversation? People is toxic, and you just got to let, I'm telling you, let that be where it's at. You just keep moving forward and being positive and showing up and leading by example, because he'll catch you on eventually. You know what I mean? It's like, well, you saying this thing about her, but she doing this, or you know what I mean? She's not acting the way that you said that she was going to act. I dealt with that too. A lot of women want to keep stuff going and keep, you know what I mean? You might be like, all right, well, you know what I mean? It happened. We moved on. You got a partner. I got a partner. Let's figure out how to show up for this child.
It's crazy that you mentioned this, right? Because you were going through some really tough stuff before you got married, even after you got married. And we just have a certain level of respect for each other and maturity that I have a relationship with the person you have a problem with. I wouldn't say a relationship, but, you know, like, you go to classes from this person. You know, we've had conversations before, and it's like, we've always been able to maintain that respect to say, listen, I don't know what the fuck y'all talking about. This is who I know this person to be. And I've always appreciated that about you. So I want to know, like, how do you navigate with stuff like that? You know, you are a popular person. You're going through things with another popular person. You're married to a popular person. And it feel like a lot of your problems as an adult have been on screen, you know, in front of everybody.
I haven't had all proud moments. But
and we all go through shit. You know, we all go through shit.
I would say hurt people, right? And at the time, I was just trying to be a supportive person to, you know, my husband, my boyfriend at the time, in the situation that he was going through. Just little games like, oh, you with her, you can't see my son. Okay, well, take me out the equation. I don't have to be around your child. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. when I got pregnant, I had with my husband, our last child. I had a very happy pregnancy. The whole pregnancy was happy. I noticed in my 9th month, now you can see the kid again. Now it's, he having this at school or whatever. And with me I wanted that relationship for him. I know he wanted that child. But I kind of too seen what was going on. You know what I mean? And then once I started dealing with postpartum, now it's like I don't know how to tell him something is wrong, because it's like, damn, like...
You can't put your finger on it.
Yeah, I can't put my finger on it. We just had this baby, and it's like just... I don't know. I couldn't call it on what it was. But now it's like, you could come see the kid, or, we was going to the movies, and did you want to come along? And one day I just was like, no, like I snapped out. Like, I don't want to be with you no more. Go do that if that's what you want to do. For me, when I'm in a relationship, I might break up with you every day. But nigga, it's 2 weeks. Yeah. It's 2 weeks. Yeah. So in that day, they went and got a room together. Her boyfriend ended up calling me. That's why I said I was in the exact same situation. The stars just didn't align for me that day. Just so happened I was able to get out. My baby this was the day before my birthday. So my baby is probably about 6 weeks. Yeah, my
baby was small too.
Yes.
And it was weird because like I went to my door to get a breather, and one of my friends was pulling up, and I was like, oh, girl, come in the house.
Get this baby.
You know what I mean? Come in the house. I got something to do real quick. Like, it just was crazy how fast all these things happen.
Yes. So this girl's boyfriend called me. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning. He said, is Kaz home? I said, no. He said, oh, well, they must be together. So me and him sat on the phone, me and the boyfriend. We call in different rooms. I found the room. I was like, my friend wanted me to come pick him up, but his phone died.
Damn, we some smart motherfuckers.
I always been, I went to school. I did a couple credits in criminal justice there. Christ. I said, my friend, his phone must have died, and I'm supposed to come pick him up. And the guy on the phone ended up saying, yeah, he's here. He verified it. I get there, now it's probably about 7:30. The manager is there. So the guy that I was just on the phone with, he don't want to say like what room or whatever, because he like, or this must be something else going on. And I just sat in the parking lot. I'm watching the exits, who coming in, screening every car, who's coming in, who's going. I probably sat out there until about 12 o'clock. Wow. Now I'm running out of milk because I was breastfeeding. So my mom calling me like, girl, your milk getting low. Like, you gonna have to come get this baby. So I said, all right. Went to the girl's house, banging on her door, nothing. And the conversation, the guy, her boyfriend is calling me in the midst of all this, like checking up, like, oh, she not answering the phone, X, Y, and Z. The kids is here by themselves, all that. And then the very next day, like, we back together like nothing, because now it's my birthday. Wow. So now we back like, nothing happened, but...
And you couldn't never prove that they was together from that. Right, but you couldn't prove.
Yeah. And then she called and was like, could you tell her to stop calling the boyfriend? But the boyfriend called me.
Right.
So just going back and forth with that. But at the end of the day, like, with my husband, that was my friend. He was very like open, like, yeah, we had sex, X, Y, and Z. I just felt like things wasn't going right or whatever, and just navigating that whole situation, girl, even up to like a couple months ago, this girl was calling me the next day after we got married.
After your wedding, it was crazy.
Yeah, it just was a lot. And that was stemming from my guest at the wedding was arguing with her. But it's like, it's my wedding. So it's like, Evonni on her wedding day arguing. I had no clue, literally, into the end of the night about what was going on. And I just made up my mind. Sometimes when you arguing, it's hard to tell who's who. Like, who's the clown in this situation, because you're engaging in it. And I just was tired. Like, I got a lot going on. I'm working. I got kids. Like, why am I going to keep on putting energy into this? I'm proving point to internet motherfuckers. Right. That's not paying no bills, ain't in my household. So once I looked at it that way, it's like, now, altercation, just so much with this. I just was like, you know what? I'm gonna just let it go.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And I feel like that is a piece of advice I'm really going to take today. Like, it's something you just gotta let go and let God, you know, all things if possible. And I feel like you are one of the most qualified people to give this last word of wisdom. Yes. You've been through so much. You got through it all. You always learn from it. You always come out better. So for some people who is going through some shit right now or recently been through some shit, what's the word of advice you got for them?
My word of advice is to bet on yourself. Whoever you believe in, whatever you believe in, ask God to reveal your purpose. And sometimes, you know, you might be like, show me who these people are around me, and God will get them right up out your life. And sometimes it be the people that be closest to you, but just focus and lock in on your purpose. And just try to be a better person for you.
Yes, that was beautiful. Tell everybody where they can find you at.
You can find me on Instagram at Ruby Raw Doll, Ruby Raw Experience, my hair page, and then Evonni Perry on Facebook.
Period. I'm so proud of you. I'm so thankful that you came on this podcast today. And I know that a lot of people are going to be moved by your story because can't nobody tell me something is impossible because you done got through it all.
Yes, I'm proud of you. This is a beautiful space. It's professional in here.
Period.
Okay, my girl popped out.
We ain't going to play with it. We just getting better, y'all.
Okay.
I love y'all, but loving you ain't gonna matter for me if you don't love yourself. Do your best to do your best by you, okay? I'll see y'all next episode.